I'm Ian O'Neill.
I'm Caoilte Barra.
I'm Andy Stevenson, and you're listening to the Auld Triangle.
We're an Irish MMA podcast brought to you by SevereMMA.com.
From amateurs to pros, regional shows to Irish fighters abroad, we're all over Irish MMA.
If that sounds like your cup of tea, hit subscribe, and now let's start the episode.
Yes, indeed. We are back with the next episode 12 of the Auld Triangle, with my good friends Andy Stevenson and Caoilte Barra.
Nearly butchered it there.
Nearly did.
There's a rift in the fucking camp.
That's it. All these Brazilian followers will be after me. We're back with a really great episode ahead of us. Loads of talking points. We're going to talk Cage Warriors Belfast, Four Nations, Centurion, Premier FC, Ian, Garry, Lee, Hammond. Endless talking points for this podcast. And Joe Duffy is going to join us. Former UFC lightweight Joe Duffy spent some time with myself and Andy over the weekend. We had a great chat with him. We'll hear from him a little bit later on in the podcast.
You're making Caoilte jealous here now.
I know. Poor Caoilte has missed out on some of the
There's a cute little frown on your face there, Caoilte. I felt bad.
Oh, yeah. Every time I go to England, we always get like a really good guest.
Are you trying to say that the rest of our guests aren't good? Is that what you're saying?
Oh no! Don't do that! Don't do that! You know what I mean? We get like an old school veteran that you kind of. It's a big interview.
I'm only joking. Poor Caoilte is on about 2 hours sleep in the last 6 days or so. So we'll go easy on you. I'm sorry.
Too hard. But you started off well, Andy, interrupting anyway from the get-go. Fair play to you. But let's talk about Cage Warriors Belfast, shall we? Happened a little bit while ago now, but we haven't had the chance to talk about it yet. What an event it was up in the SSE Arena in Belfast. You know, a lot of talk before about the disappointment about Paul Hughes not being on the card, maybe Joe McCollgan not being on the card, but the event really lived up to the expectations and to the excitement, and Rhys McKee went in there. That's the main story, guys. I mean, we have to, as Ariel Helwani famously says, we can't bury the lead. We have to go at Rhys McKee. It was an unbelievable performance, Andy, wasn't it?
It was incredible. I was so jealous of everyone who was there. Couldn't make it up, and it seemed like one of those nights that will just kind of live on in Irish MMA folklore. Like I'm still kind of, I finally come down, I think, a couple of weeks later from that fight. But I remember just like when that fight ended, just sitting in my gaff, just being like, what have I just witnessed here? Like, and not even, you know, I spoke to Rhys McKee afterwards, and I said the same to him. Like, it wasn't even just the fact that he'd won and he'd pulled it out of the bag, and like, what an incredible fight, but just the heart that they both showed, like both him and Justin Burns. And obviously we'll talk about Rhys McKee from an Irish perspective, but an incredible display of heart from both men. Their faces were completely just destroyed by the end of it. And what a night for Rhys McKee, like to do that in front of a Belfast crowd when he was supposed to have gotten that shot in Belfast previously. It seemed like a very, very defining moment in his career. Like that'll be one that he'll look back on and say, you know, whatever happens 100%. Next, that is a huge moment.
100%. I feel the same myself. It was like, I've described this fight as a fight that Rhys McKee needed and a fight that he didn't need, if you know what I mean. It's like that one where you have to dig so deep to kind of see what you're capable of. And, you know, his back was against the wall for a lot of the first and second round there. And, you know, at one stage, the ref was like telling him to move, and he was in trouble, and he was taking shots on the ground. But you know what? He found a way. And my goodness, Caoilte, what a knockout to finish the fight. It was, you know, we've all watched a lot of fights. I've seen a lot of fights, and, you know, sometimes you kind of get desensitized or immune towards what you see. that fucking knockout had me standing up out of my seat. It was unbelievable, wasn't it, Caoilte?
Lad, I was in absolute disbelief that a fight like that happened. When afterwards, I text one of my good friends who I used to watch fights with the whole time. I was like, "Go use your UFC Fight Pass free trial and watch that fight." And I was like, "We won't disappoint." And he agreed. It was absolutely fantastic. It was a huge moment for Rhys McKee, and it just it's crazy. He's 26 years of age, and I think he's the only person to win a BAMMA World Championship, then the Cage Warriors World Championship. He actually won 2 belts in BAMMA. It's incredible. So like what he's achieved so far is amazing, and the fact that he got to top off that night in the SSE arena in Belfast is just so happy for him. So yeah, look,
12 wins, 12 finishes too for Skeletor. So it has to be UFC next. I don't even think there's a conversation to be had about that. That's what needs to happen for him. He deserves it. He deserves that shot again, and I hope he gets it. Moving on to the co-main event, and for me, another absolutely fantastic performance here from Kayin Lockran. I mean, every time I talk to him, every time I see him in there, I'm just more and more impressed. And, we have to stay down the middle. We have to call it as it is, but I fucking love Kayin Lockran. I love the way he talks, and I love the way he fights. And you know what? He can talk all the shit he wants. He can say whatever he wants when he's going in there and performing like that. He can say whatever he wants, in my opinion. Festus Aurelio is a tough opponent, and that's 2 in a row that, we talked about it, and I asked him, and we've asked him before. He had fought Cans per se at the start of his career. No more. He's doing the damn thing, and Caoilte, I'd say, that was his best performance of his career so far, wasn't it?
By a country mile. After that, his Cage Warriors debut, I thought he was impressive. But I thought this was going to be a bit of a step up again, and was a bit worried that it could have been too much of a step up. Because Festus' last win was a really good one at that. It was Mike and
Ekendale.
That's it, who fought for the Cage Warriors Bantamweight Championship. So to get a win over a guy who was a win over that, it's incredible. Look, he looked fantastic. Really excited to see what's next for him. He can talk the talk, and now he can walk the walk. So look, I think people have to start getting behind him, and he's not just a shy talker online anymore, is he?
He certainly isn't he?
He looks more comfortable now, doesn't he? I thought similarly, I was impressed by his debut performance at Cage Warriors, but he just looked a little bit tentative at times, or this was the performance where he looked so comfortable in there. And Kayin Lockran, guys like Kayin Lockran make covering MMA fun. I think we all forget about the can stuff anymore. It's done, as you said, Ian. It's done, and I think everyone, if people are still clinging on to that, well, then that's for them to cling on to at this point. You can only keep move forward now, and I'm really excited to see what's next for Kayin, because he backs it up. He's backed it up so far, and we're going to find out just how much he can back it up, which is great. He's calling out everyone, and he just looks a solid prospect. I was just really, really impressed.
Another impressive performance, Andy, was James Sheen. And the impressive performances were stacking up in this event. And James Sheen went in there and put on a clinic against Martin Cause. He looked really sensational in there, didn't he?
Yeah, I thought it was a very intelligent performance by James as well. We've seen him come through absolute wars throughout his career. We all remember the Ian Garry fight, and James gets it. And I thought this one was it was a composed, mature, methodical performance. There was a little moment of adversity at the end of the first round where they started swinging hell for leather at each other, but he never looked really in danger there. And similarly, he kind of pulled himself out of that at the end of the round quickly. I was like, right, I'm going to shoot a double leg now and put him on his back. Same way he came out in the second round, immediately looked like he was getting the better of the strike and had a beautiful level change into a takedown, and then that was all she wrote. Ground and pound finish. James Sheen. Now, one thing I will say was a little bit critical or not that enthused by the matchup going into it. It was great that he got that win. It was great that he got that activity. He's got momentum building behind him. He's got to fight back in Ireland, and now it's time to push him up to the top of the division. Get him on a card. I don't know if he's ready to go. If they could get him on, say, it's probably too late now, July, the card in a few weeks in London, that's probably out of the question at this point. But the next card that's coming down, get him on one, maybe a title eliminator against one of the more tenured guys, and then see where he goes from there.
Yeah, who would you like to see him in there with Caoilte next if you were to pick? I mean, I definitely I definitely think that Andy said I'm all for that too. He needs to get that step up in competition and needs to get a big name in the 170-pound division. Who would you give him?
I think we spoke about this before, and the one I mentioned was Madras Flaminas. I think that'd be a perfect step up, and I'd like to see it in, if possible, because it would be on my birthday, in Cage Warriors in Wales.
Lovely. That would be pretty good. All right, Andy, I'm going to put you right on the spot. Well, how did you score Ryan Shelley versus Matthew Elliott?
Funny you asked that, and we didn't even plan this. I actually watched it again right before this because I had a feeling we'd be talking about this. On the night, I hadn't a clue. I was half watching it. I had my fucking mother-in-law from the States over, and I'm there sneakily watching. This is why I couldn't go. Like, I was like, I don't even know if I'm going to be able to watch these. I had like a chair like blocked off to pretend that I wasn't watching.
That's hilarious.
I hadn't a clue, but I watched this right. So, before I say who I think won the fight, let me preface it by saying this: if you were to show that fight to someone on the street and say who won the fight, I think 9 out of 10 would tell you Matthew Elliott. Optically, it looks like he's won the fight. However, the issue with it is a lot of Matthew Elliott's game is dominant grappling, and it's to date, or at least in that fight, there wasn't a whole lot of strikes being thrown. So when the judges are looking at it, they don't care. They literally just disregard that. But I also think, both sides came out being very, very adamant. It was a win on either side. I don't think any side can come out of that and say my guy 100% won. Mm-hmm. Now, having said that, I think Matthew Elliott won that fight. I thought that there was very, very little. Look, it was a boring fight. I'll be completely honest. It was a boring fight. There wasn't a whole lot of action as far as damage or scoring or anything like that. I know Ryan Shelley was throwing a lot from the bottom, but I don't think they were doing a whole lot, if I'm honest with you. The same way Matthew Elliott wasn't doing a whole lot from the top, but I do think, like, especially in the second round, like, those takedowns were quite impactful. It wasn't a case of it just being a change of position. I think there were impactful takedowns. There were 3 incredibly close rounds. I think Matthew Elliott won it, but I don't have like a massively strong opinion one way or the other, but I think Matthew Elliott won the fight.
Really, really close fight, and I think that Matthew Elliott won the fight too, 29-28, but a razor close decision. I mean, modern MMA is scored that way, and it's based off impact, whether it's impact of a takedown. Control time gets you nothing on the judges' scorecards. It has to be immediately impactful. You have to be progressing. In the grappling department, you have to be trying to advance position. You have to be trying to finish the fight. So a lot of those fights, like the idea and what Ryan Shelley was doing off his back, is something that you should be doing when you get taken down and you're on your back. Apart from getting back up, or if you can't get back up, you're throwing damage on the ground. We've seen that again, and sometimes we've seen in fights that hasn't been scored as it should be. And, he got the nod this time, but it's all about immediate impactful. He was landing a lot, but not that much. A lot landing on the forearms of Elliott and stuff like that. So I just squeaked it to Matthew Elliott in a razor close fight. But yeah, no one could be super confident in winning that. Would you be along the same lines as that, Caoilte?
Very much so. So I haven't watched it back. I watched it live and I watched it quite closely, and look, if you asked me on the night who I thought won, I would have said Matthew Elliott straight up. It's close. I wouldn't say couldn't tell you I'm 100% confident, as you lads have alluded to already. So it's just one of those fights, and it's obviously caused a bit of a, it's caused a little bit of a stir because it's a lot. It's
caused fucking mayhem.
Yeah, okay, I was underplaying it a bit. I'll tell you what, really, about that one though, that 30-27 scorecard, really, I was like,
yeah, that
was really bad. Now that one, the 29-28, look, yeah, I don't know, the 30-27 was one that really had me raising eyebrows. But yeah, at the night scored it as Matthew Elliott. I need to watch it back again, but yeah, that's it for me, I think.
You can get a 30-27 scorecard in a really close fight too. But yeah,
I could have had a variety of scorecards.
I scored a 29-28 myself.
Same.
And
it's tough to take though. Like, if you're Matthew Elliott, that's a tough one to take.
Yeah, wouldn't like to be his next opponent. I'll put it that way.
No, yeah.
It's a learning curve for
Matthew. I don't want to see that rematch, to be honest. I haven't watched the fight. I don't want to see it. But, there's obviously there's a strong case for a rematch.
Yeah, I think, it'll be... Look, but Matthew, he's going to learn a hell of a lot from that, and I guarantee if he does get into that position again, that he's going to be looking to posture up and land those shots. And, if he had done that a little bit more, it would have been a lot more one-sided win, I think, for him. But he was on the wrong side of the decision, and that happens sometimes. James Power picked up a good win over Adam Shelley. A lot of uncertainties around James Power before this fight, but not anymore after the fight. I think he took out Adam Shelley, who was a really good fighter, and he did it quite convincingly too. So that would be tough to take for Adam, obviously. But Adam Darby opened up the card with an absolutely phenomenal performance on his debut against Dorian Kluknyov. And I think, Adam Darby is one to be looking out for in the lightweight division in Cage Warriors. The size of that man, he is fucking huge for that division. And I would hate to have to fight him at 155.
The most deadly giraffe in Ireland.
Hey, that's for sure. I mean, Andy, what else is there to say? I think he went in there and fought excellently and, left us wanting more, really, didn't he?
Yeah, it was a savage performance. I don't think he can really have you can always have a better debut, but that was a brilliant pro debut. We hadn't seen him in a few years. We talked about previously where he was the guy that the Team Rhino guys were bigging up as the next one to break through onto the pro scene from the team, and he really delivered. I'm really, really, really excited to see the next couple of years for Adam Darby, because the upkick, it all started with that upkick, and then it was ferocious from there. So a really impressive debut for Adam Darby.
Indeed. Caoilte, you had the pleasure of being live over at the Four Nations this weekend over in Liverpool. Team Ireland were over there and they had a fantastic weekend overall. Finished 10-1, 7 first round finishes. Give us a little bit of a recap from maybe, if you can, over the course of the day, as what happened, some of the standout performances and some of the big stories that came out of that.
Yeah, where do I start? It was fantastic, and I think the best way of starting is, look, Ireland ran riot at that event. Absolutely ran riot. They didn't lose for the first 2 days, and there was only one loss on the final day. That one loss was the best fight of the whole tournament. I've written it down. I've written an article. I'll say it now. It was the best fight of the tournament. Absolutely incredible. It got a standing ovation. It was an amateur event and they got a standing ovation like that. Absolutely incredible.
This is the Sinead Newland fight, is it?
Yeah, against Chanel Dyer. Excuse me, I should have said.
And didn't she have that amazing fight as well at the national championships against Kerry Byrne? Yeah.
And the other one, was it Clan Wars against Sarah Sheridan? Was that another one? Or am I mistaken?
No, I think you're right.
Yeah, I think you're right, Caoilte.
So, Ireland turned up basically, and they were fantastic from the get go. Okay, well I'll get the results up here, and I'll go through it from standouts from each day. Okay, so from day one, obviously day one started a little bit late. I actually wasn't there for that, but sure, I watched as much as I could. Jordan Bradshaw, Keith Keogh, both advanced wins over really good opponents. Sinead Newland also got her first win, and Armbar kicked off the competition in style. So day one, off to a great start. Day two, rocked up on day two, and it was like something was in the air. There was finishes left, right, and center. Yeah, all the Irish fighters were just on great form. And the one thing that I will kind of say was it was across all fighters. They looked a lot more relaxed. It's a more relaxed setting. There's no pressure to sell tickets. I asked a few of the fighters, spoke to one or two afterwards, and I said, you look much kind of calm, collected in there, and it comes out in the performance. And then they were saying there's no pressure. You don't have to. There's no big, massive crowd shouting and screaming. There's no big thumping music before you make a walk to the cage. You just get in, you have a fight, you get out, and you do the same thing again the next day. And that was a big factor, I think, and it's a great way to get experience. But anyway, right, let's talk about some of the fighters. Ross Kearney, it's his first win, I think, since 2016. Lads, he looked sensational. The striking was on point, looked very fluid. A lot of people said it. That lead left hook in that southpaw stance was just money every single time. On the finals day, he dropped him, followed up, ground and pound, and got the Auld Triangle choke. And yeah, had to get that in there. Absolutely phenomenal. I was buzzing for him. He looked buzzing, and he was what a lot of people said who I spoke to. He was one of the standouts of the competition. Jordan Bradshaw and Keith Keogh shared gold once again. Both of them dominated a really, really tough division, might I add. The fact that two went over there and dominated the division, incredible. Shared gold once again.
Was there any possibility of them fighting this time or no?
Nah, I said it two of them. I went up to them on finals day and I was like, you're pulling your old tricks again. But
what do we have to do to see a Keith Keogh versus Bradshaw fight?
I can tell you what you do. You go down to CMAC and you go watch sparring.
I'm just going to start rumors, I think, and just cause a rift between them.
Here now, might as well. No, they were in good spirits, but like I don't blame them. I don't blame them. They're putting the opposite of the bracket. They got to the final. It is what it is. It's up to the organisers. If they're not being put on the same side, then they both get to the final,
like it is tough, like teammates, like you can understand why they wouldn't want to.
They're like family. I was chatting to them, like they're like family. I don't blame them. Like, there's no point in putting pressure on them. If they were getting like a few, if they're getting a few quid for it, then maybe they would, but sure, they're amateurs. Come on, like there's no need.
Get in there and throw no strikes for 3 rounds, get 3 10-10 rounds, and then announce them both, and then they technically would have fought with one another. So that's what we want to see.
Exactly. I want to touch on Solomon Simon real quickly, and he looked a complete different fighter to the one I saw in Abu Dhabi. He is complete dominant wrestling and takedowns. You used to seeing him really slick striking, and he was just dominant grappling for this. He looked really, really good in there. I'd love to. I don't know what's next for him, to be honest. I think someone said on Twitter, is like, oh, maybe pro next, and who knows. He's so much experience, and he looked really, really good in there. So I'm very excited to see what's next to him. And he was a standout for me at the weekend. And moving on to my last standout was Mohamed Aftaranov. Oh my God, lads, you need to watch this.
This is the one I've been waiting to hear from you about.
Okay, he's an absolute monster. He's 19 years of age. I'm scared shitless of this man. I looked at him in the cage and I was like, oh my God. It's like it's incredible.
He's heavyweight, right?
Light heavyweight.
Okay.
Here he was walking through these lads for fun. I'd say he could have had 2 fights in one day and finished them both in the first round.
What's his background and a bit of if for anyone who might not know about him already, including myself, give us a bit of background on what kind of style and where he's from and what Jimmy's fighting out of.
So from what I've gathered, he's a very, very strong grappling background. I think he's won gold in likes of Grappling Industries, a lot of grappling tournaments around Ireland. I imagine there's a few international there as well, but I'm not 100% on that. And it showed. Like his grappling was absolutely on point. He actually got an Auld Triangle choke there on the final day and all that. But he in the build up
to two for the count there.
When he finished that on the final day, it was calm. It was so calm and everything. There was no rushing. Like this is a lad who made his MMA debut at the weekend, and he went and he looked so calm and collected. He took his time, absolutely flawless. It was perfect. Really impressive.
So he apparently has been training at SPG since he's about 12 or 13, and has been mainly working with Nereus, the jiu-jitsu coach there. And I unfortunately I didn't get to watch the Four Nations this weekend, but I was told, and I'm raging I didn't know, especially because of this. But a fighter from SPG got on to me, was like, you have to make sure you look out for Mohamed this weekend. I've been told that this lad is giving like top tier light heavyweights in the gym, like we're talking lads who were fought in the UFC, their hardest rounds, and he's 19 years old and an amateur. They're saying he's like unlike any other amateur they've ever trained with. Like that is seriously high praise. So yeah, clearly this is a guy that we need to be paying attention to.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing him progressing. I mean, was he kind of the standout performer for you for the whole weekend, Caoilte?
Whole weekend. Oh my God, straight up. He it's funny though, you see a lad walking in for their amateur debut and they have 2 cauliflower ears, you're like, oh, here, this lad's going to be good. But yeah, standout for the whole weekend was him. Excited is an understatement, to be honest. I overuse that word quite a bit, but my God, it's an understatement for this lad. I think you saw Twitter people going mad. Andrew McGahan was saying it. Will Fleury was saying it. It seems as though this guy's going to be a real problem. So one to watch, lads.
Definitely one to watch. I'm excited to see him progress. Well, the Irish turned up at the Four Nations. They also turned up in Malta over the weekend at Centurion FC, and they turned up in force. Kiefer Crosby, good win. Stephen Costello, good win. Nathan Kelly. Let's start from the top with Kiefer. I mean, let's start with all the positives here at this event, because there's a couple of negatives as well, to be honest. I mean, look, everyone got to fight, everybody got paid, and that's a fucking good thing in my eyes. The event itself was in a fantastic arena, fantastic setting, looked really good. If we could watch it, we had to go through 4-5 different streams with sound, no sound, videos stopping, videos lagging. It was impossible. Andy, you're trying your best. You should be given an award for the coverage that you did on it, to be honest, because you did a great job considering all the hiccups and everything that went on. I mean, the guy that was giving out the trophies and standing in the pictures looks like he was going to be in the next episode of Narcos Mexico, to be honest. He is a real bio altogether, so he was.
Jesus Christ.
Kiefer went in and got the job done against an opponent.
Have you ever seen have you ever seen someone wearing a half short, half legging before?
No.
What the fuck was he wearing?
There was some rig out, all right, yeah. It is. But look, Kiefer went in and got the job done. It was a fight that he should have been winning, though, Andy. The guy had a losing record. Not Kiefer's fault, but I mean, Kiefer's talking about going to the UFC and having those aspirations, and you have to fight, but he's going to need more solid competition if he is going to make that jump. I mean, not saying that win wouldn't get him a shot or at the contender series into the UFC, but I'd be thinking it probably wouldn't. He's probably going to need another one against opponent with at least going to give him a little bit of a fight. Anyway, this lad was a real. His entrance was nearly more exciting than what he did inside the ring. Kiefer's opponent. What are your thoughts overall on the main event?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a nice highlight. I think this fight. I'm trying to figure out how to phrase everything here. I think that this was more for Kiefer. This is about just getting back in there, putting on a show, getting a win. And he did that. He did his job. I know, like, when I spoke to him, he was saying that he was originally, I think there was talk of him being matched up with Walter Pugliese, who, had a better record. I think he's 9-3 or something, had previously fought in Bellator. That never came to fruition. Then he was fought, matched up with Amir Samargandi or something like that. He had a losing record, so, Kiefer was going to be a level above him. And then he gets this guy last minute, whatever, Brian Lowe and Joe, or whatever his name was. 46 years old, hadn't fought in 4 years, was on a 4-fight losing streak. It was a mismatch. Like, I mean, Kiefer went in, he did his job, got the highlight reel, but you just don't learn anything from these. Like, and there's a few others on the card as well. You don't learn anything from it. Like, it's a great win. I'm happy for him. Happy he got to fight. Cool venue, good experience. But what are we supposed to say? Like, we're not. There's not a whole lot to say about it.
You have to say it as it is. I mean, it's not Kiefer's fault either. He has to fight. He has to put food on the table. But I mean, it is what it is. I mean, you know what I mean? He bet a guy.
I'm not going to jump up and scream as if he's after beating a UFC champion. Like,
like when you have fighters pulling out. Yeah, when you have fighters pulling out and everything like that. But it is what it is. It was he got in there, got the job done, got paid. But he needs to be. If I were him, I'd be chomping at the bit to get in there as quickly as I can again against someone.
I'm sure. Look, I'm sure it's frustrating. Like. I'm sure there was some frustration for the fighters going in with it. Like, there's a lot of fucking messing going on with this event, and I'm sure they weren't hoping for any of this. So look, it is what it is. On to the next one. And that's what we'll do. We'll head to the co-main event, and Luca Coghlan picked up another good win against a guy who has an 18-29 record. Got an anaconda choke after 22 seconds, so I think that kind of tells its own story as well. Yeah. That one was weirder though, even because they didn't even, like, there was no communication whatsoever.
Like, the commentator in this, did you hear the commentator, Andy? He was like,
"No,
what the fuck is going on here?" What, literally saying that. He was like, "What the fuck is going on here?" He's like,
but like,
I was like,
hey, he was supposed to be fighting.
Out,
Yeah, he was supposed to be fighting the guy who was like 4-1 or something, like, you know, a much better matchup. But then when I went, like, they were still posting the old opponents, and then I went to there, I saw the weigh-ins, and I was like, hang on a second, this is a different guy to who is on the, like, it just, yeah, another weird one.
These things happen in MMA, as they say. Nathan Kelly did not fight a can, and he picked up a really good win against a really good opponent as well, and looked really great doing that. I think, you know, he spoke to you before the fight. He made a decision, Andy, recently to give up his job at Aldi, train full time, and that looks to have paid off, didn't it?
Yeah. Sorry, I'm trying to pull myself together. I thought we were about to talk. We'll get to that in a minute. Sorry, Nathan Kelly. Yeah, good win for Nathan Kelly. I'm losing it here, lads.
I'm so confused as to what's going on right now.
Listen, hang on, okay. Look, I can't stop thinking about Keane Coghlan's opponents, but we'll get to that. Hang on. No, we'll get to that. Right, Nathan Kelly, solid win. Look, I mean, Nathan Kelly blitzed him. He blitzed him here. Going into this, I thought that he had the toughest opponent going in. I was expecting more out of his opponents, if I'm honest. But maybe it's just a case that Nathan, you know, he went in there, he got the double leg immediately. He's a jiu-jitsu black belt. He passed, and then he started landing down a barrage of strikes, and a great win. And again, on to the next one. You know, Nathan Kelly, that's 5 in a row for him. He's really putting together a nice streak, and I think he's certainly a prospect to look out for in Irish MMA. As you said, he's quit his job training full time ahead of this now, so, you know, the future is bright for Nathan Kelly, and I'd like to see him put back on, you know, well, I don't know if I would like to see him put back on the Bellator show in Dublin. If you can get a 1-fight deal, get on the Bellator show in September. But he also told me that his plan is UFC, so we'll see what happens there, and we'll see what his path looks like. But yeah.
On to the next one. I know you're chomping at the bit there, Andy. Go on. Oliver Allen Mogang.
Man, this is the fucking funniest weigh-in I've ever fucking seen in my life. Like, the lad. Oh, I've never had so much fun cropping a video in my entire fucking life. The Keane Coghlan weighs in, or no, sorry, his opponent, whatever his fucking name, Alan Mujang or something. He comes in, he's about 2 foot nothing, built like a like he's wider than he is tall.
Yeah, I was going to say wider than
he walks up to weigh in, and I've never seen, like, I've never seen someone take off shoes the way he did. Like, it's as if he was like a Lego body, but the legs are facing one way and the upper half is facing the other way. I've watched him take his shoes off in the video. It's the funniest thing I've ever seen. Then he gets on the scales and he's facing the wrong fucking way. Has to be told to turn around. And then the greatest video on earth is Keane Coghlan weighs in, walks over, and it pans to his opponent, who's not even up to his armpit. One of the greatest visuals I've ever seen in my life. But
the fight itself,
do we have to talk about the fight? Can we not just keep talking about this?
Yeah. The fight itself, Keane landed a brutal knee to the body, two in a row actually in the second round. Don't know what the fuck the referee was at here. What, like, did you see that, Caoilte?
Literally, I've seen bits and bobs of this card. I saw this and I've been so confused.
The referee thought it was a fucking Thai boxing fight or something like that, where he was trying to separate them and give your man a count. And Keane Coghlan was like, what are you doing? Like, he did exactly the right thing. You stay going until the referee pulls you off. And if he does, that's the fight over. The referee was looking to try give him a count or something. I was massively confused. The sound wasn't working at this stage, so I hadn't a clue what was going on. We were all in the WhatsApp group texting each other saying, what's happening here? Like, we didn't know what was going on.
What the fuck is going on?
But
it looked like he was almost about to start a fight on Keane, the ref. Like,
he did, yeah. Like,
I was like, what are you doing, mate?
It was like the ref was insulted that Keane Coghlan had kneed him twice and tried.
How dare you kick this man during a fight?
Fuck's sake, it was hilarious. Christ almighty. But look at a good win for Keane. He was taken down, he was on his back.
To be fair, Mujang got him down a few times.
Yeah, got him down a few times, and Keane got back up and showed a couple of new wrinkles and gets another win, and he moves to 4-5 now, and he's right back on a winning streak. And it's great to see Keane turn things around in his career, and hopefully we get.
It must be a mad opponent to go in against, though. Like,
yeah, like, I mean, that thing we're laughing and we're joking about it, but that's almost impossible to and just laughing about. It must be hard to fight a guy like that, like, because getting in at him and trying to find your range against him.
It was like tough. A creative character in like I thought he was going to run
through Keane's legs a few times and try to take his back, and it's so small, it was crazy. But it was one of those fights, a difficult kind of one to kind of find and make those adjustments. But Keane Coghlan did. He got the knee and got the KO win in the second round. Unfortunately, Danny, let's talk about Stephen Costello's win first, then we'll talk about Danny. Stephen Costello picked up his first professional win against Antevsky, under a minute, total domination, and he'll be delighted with that performance, won't he, Andy?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I thought, like, I was quite impressed with what I saw of Stephen Costello when he in his Bellator debut, or his pro debut in Bellator. The first round, I thought he was looking pretty good. Obviously, he ended up losing that one. He got submitted, but yeah, great. You know, look, whatever about opponents, you're coming in 0-1. You're taking on anyone here, and really, really impressive, ferocious finish from him. So, and again, you said it was 32 seconds or something like this. I think he finished him in. So
50 seconds, just 50 under seconds. A minute, but yeah, it was total domination.
Yeah, smashed him.
Yeah, absolutely great performance. He'll be delighted with that, delighted with his first professional win. So fair play to Stephen there. Unfortunately, Danni McCormack was suffered her second loss in a row. Very disappointing one against Manuela Marcinato. This fight was weird to watch because it cut off, was lagging. We did our best. We saw the first 2 rounds and a bit of the third round. I scored rounds 1 to Danny. I scored round 2 to Danny. Round 1, not a clear, but a decisive round for Danny, in my opinion. I felt that she was landing her jab. She was landing her straight. I feel that Manuela was throwing her jab out and maybe getting off, but Danny was moving backwards, and for the majority of the strikes that Manuela were showing, so the majority of them weren't landing at all. The second round was a little bit closer, but Danny, I truly felt, got the best work done and won a closer second round, which would have put her 2 rounds to 1 up. We only saw half of the third round, and a very close round 2. You know, Manuela maybe got the better of the early exchanges in round 3, but it's hard to give a.
Yeah, the video was mad laggy for that fight as well.
Yeah,
like you're seeing them start to throw a punch and then it's landed, and you're like, oh.
The sound was also off for this, so I didn't hear the scorecards. I seen them somewhere and I can't remember what they were. But Danny dropped the split decision. She was disappointed with it. She thought she did enough to win. I thought she did enough to win. I thought she was 2 rounds up. So, I mean, that was decisive enough for me to say what I'm saying right now. But, you know, she'll be disappointed with that. I know she had been working hard. I spoke to her ahead of that fight, and you know, she was working a lot on her defensive work in the striking department, obviously after suffering her first TKO loss. And her jab looked really good, and her distance control looked really good. Like, she was moving forward, landing her shots, and she was moving back out of the way of Manuela's. Got her down on her back a couple of times, threatened with a submission. But, you know, she'll be disappointed, but she'll come back from that.
Just puts her in a tough spot, though, doesn't it? Like, the last 2 in a row, and you know, I'm sure she's by no means done, but she is 32 years old, so you know, you kind of need to get some momentum going. Obviously, look, I'm sure she'll be around for a long time. She'll rebound,
for sure. But you're right, though, Andy. Yeah. I mean, you want to be. She'll have to. Can't really afford another one, and
it's a rebuild now.
Yeah, they're 100%. But, you know, it'd be interesting to hear what Danny thinks. She might see that as a win, even though it's a loss on her record. So it's disappointing always to drop a split decision.
You know, I'd like to see Danny get into somewhere like an Invicta, because, you know, we might see her, but I'm sure we'll probably see her back in Bellator. But they still don't have a division for her. So, you know, to get some momentum going, to get her in somewhere where they have a division, and, you know, we see some progression going. So
one fight left on her Bellator deal, and she is eyeing that September card in Dublin. So we'll see what happens after that. We are going to talk about Premier FC. I'm going to talk about Lee Hammond and Garry a little bit. We're going to talk a little bit about Premier FC. We'll bring in Joe Duffy for his interview, and then we'll talk a little bit of Lee Hammond and Garry, and a few other things after that. Premier FC, I'm going to have to say I was otherwise occupied, and unfortunately I didn't get the chance to watch this live. Hopefully the boys release a few videos and we can watch a few fights back. I think the biggest story that came out of this before the event even started was the announcement that Kayin Lockran was out of his bout with Andrew Barrett, which is a disappointing blow to the card. Tiernan had some issues with SevereMMA. I'm not going to. I spoke to Tiernan. It's a pretty serious issue, and he is currently kind of going through the process of figuring things out right now. We wish him all the health. We wish, hopefully, he's doing all right. Hopefully, he's not too disappointed. It's not my position to say what went wrong or what the situation was. So that's all I'll say on that. But I just wish Tiernan well, and hopefully, he can get back in there as soon as possible.
Obviously best wishes to him as well, you know.
100%.
I was chatting to Andy Hickey as well. I think he was at the event. I think there was a few other fights pulled as well. I didn't hear which specific ones, but
I think it was left with 9 fights in the end. I can't remember what the full number was. It was left with 9 fights. So yeah, it's a shame. I'm not sure what the issues were with some of them. I must try and find out, but yeah, it's a shame the card got hit, but look, it's good that there's some MMA going on in Tipperary at least.
Yeah, absolutely. Ronan Deegan picked up a good decision win over Carl McConway in that fight. Armin Herzog defeated Victor Zakaria. There was a little bit of miscommunication there from the ring announcers. Does any of you guys know about what went on there?
Yeah, so I think when there was a miscommunication between the officials and the ring announcer. So I think the ring announcer said Victor won, but it was actually Armin that won. But they were informed afterwards of the correct decision.
Switcheroo.
Yeah.
These things happen. I was
waiting for it, Ian. I was waiting for it.
Yeah. You know, Ronan Deegan, just to jump back to him, like that's a solid win against Carl McConway. You know, a grizzled veteran of the Irish amateur MMA scene. Considered
more
he
fights
every 2
than
seconds.
Does Carl.
Yeah, I saw Ronan Deegan fight up in at Ur as well. And he looked pretty good, so he'll be one kind of keep an eye on over the next little while as well. So.
Yeah, we tried to get the results for the full results. We were unable to secure the full results, but the last one that we report on was a Cork versus Cork, where Chris McCarthy beat Brian Manning by decision, and apparently that was an absolute war that I'm looking forward to looking back on. Anybody have any details about that, or anybody have anything to add about that Premier FC card? They have another one coming up in the home of hurling in Kilkenny in the Loughlin Gales on August 2nd.
I want to get down to one soon because they got the massive cage as well. So,
Jesus, go down. That'd be a great one to go down to now. Fucking shoot down the motorway, down in 1 hour and 10 minutes into Kilkenny, Andy, and you'll be in the home of hurling.
Visit the castle and everything.
Oh yeah, visit the castle. Yeah, my home away from home. But yeah, looking forward to that. It's exciting to see MMA back in Kilkenny for me anyway, and I'm sure the lads will put on another great card again. That
just
brings
a pity it's probably full of Kilkenny people.
No. I'm not even going to go there. But where I am going to go is to our interview with Joe Duffy, UFC lightweight. Joined myself and Andy for an absolutely great conversation that we both enjoyed, and we hope everybody that's listening has enjoyed. Joe retired, and me and Andy were talking about before the interview. It's almost 2 years ago now since he's retired, and we thought, Jesus, it seemed a lot longer than that, and I think what he kind of thought was a little bit sooner than that. So we were a little bit off when it comes to that. But we'll go over to Joe now, and Andy will take that interview away.
And now we're joined by a legend of Irish MMA in Joseph Duffy, who we've tracked down from Canada. We haven't heard from you in a while. Obviously, the retirement, we're coming up, I think, in about 2 weeks on 2 years to the day you announced your retirement from MMA. Joe, how are you doing today, sir?
Hi, very good. Thanks, boys. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. We're delighted to have you on, and thanks for taking the time. I mentioned there, you're obviously almost 2 years retired now, Joe. So let's start off with how's life? What are you up to these days? What does retired life look like for Joseph Duffy?
That's it. To be honest, the time's just flown by, tell you the truth. When you said it there, it was almost a shock to the system, 2 years. I just working life, boys. I'm working on the roofs these days. So it's nice to be a beginner again and learning a new trade and And then I had a second one last year. She's coming up. She'll be one now in a couple of weeks. So that's enough to keep any man busy with a couple of kids running around. So that's about the height of it, I would say.
You've traded in Dana White for a new boss with the kids.
Oh Jesus! Two bosses, two girls, so two big bosses.
Yeah. Were you doing roofing while you were fighting Joe or no?
No. I done some construction with Dad because Dad done tunneling, you know. So when I was younger, I was doing bits and pieces with Dad when he had to have contracts, and just before my last fight, I went back home to do a bit of construction. I was doing a big contract my brother needed some help with, but no, I never done roofing at all, tell you the truth. So it was a total change of direction altogether, but tell you the truth, I'm loving it.
Yeah, so like how was that transition, I suppose, at first, from going from training full time and you're constantly thinking the next fight and fighting on the brain, to now, just not having that anymore, and as you mentioned, a whole new ball game and manual labour. What was the transition like from giving up fighting?
There was positives and negatives to it, It was nice to finally go to work and come home and not break your head, especially towards the end. I was getting very frustrated with the way I was sparring and training and fighting. Like I wasn't doing what my mind wanted me to do, I knew I was capable of more. And just it wasn't coming out in sparring or in fights, and I would spend a lot of time frustrated, So when I started a normal job, as you say, it was nice to go to work and come home, and you had the satisfaction of going doing a good day's work and coming home, and that was a nice change. But obviously with the fighting, especially when I had the first baby, having all that free time was a luxury, after I think it was the Dia Casey fight was when Laura was born. So obviously I was able to spend a lot of time with her, when she was born. I had plenty of time to spend with her. So that was nice. But obviously when you start a full-time job, it's a bit more difficult, and the sleepless nights are definitely they're definitely hard on the head.
Yeah, it sounds like I'm like a different type of stress. Like, is it a case that now you can you put in your day's work and you can leave the job at the job, versus when you're a fighter, you can't, while you've stopped training, at the end of the day you're still kind of thinking about it. Is that kind of the way it is? Exactly that. Like when I was training, I was consumed by it, because I was always a bit anal, if anything, with the technique and with everything else, and then when you're not quite getting things right, or you're getting frustrated, there was basic things that I felt like I was almost going backwards on then. Like I kind of lost my way a little bit, So then I was, it never left your head. And then sometimes you might think you got it right and training's going well and everything, and then it was something I never experienced. But then the last few fights, when I would go in and fight, it was like I wasn't comfortable in there. Like everything was in slow-mo, and nothing was coming out the way you knew you could do it, So then that was something new to me, and it was even more frustrating again, because I've been fighting since I was a kid, and I think maybe that's only happened to me once up until that stage, So that was driving me mental altogether. Yeah, and are you still training now, Joe, or do you still train MMA or no? No, not much at all, to be honest. I went grappling there. I don't know, we're off work, it was raining. I went grappling there the one day, just to one of the local clubs. And it was maybe once this year, and last year I'd done a few sessions, just the boys would be back in town. I'd do a little bit moving around, sparring, messing about, but tell you the truth, I haven't been doing any training at all, which is strange considering, that's all I ever done since I was 5, but I don't know what it was. As much as I wish I had the love for it, I don't. When I go back training, I just don't have that love for it anymore, sadly. So, that's almost a frustrating thing, because
I would love to still have that passion for it, that I can't wait to go to the gym and come home and my mind thinking about it. But sadly, not. That's gone.
Yeah, it's like strange because Cowboy Cerrone said the exact same thing last night. Now it's yet to be seen if he will remain retired. When did you think that the love went out of it for you, Joe? At what stage, say, towards the end?
I don't know. I know when the contract negotiations started, I was getting a bit frustrated at that stage. Because obviously, with what they ask of you to do, really, like they want you to go in and fight and get finishes and put on exciting performances. And I felt like up till that stage, I've been doing that, and then when it came to contract negotiation, they offered a contract that was, it was maybe 2,000 or 3,000 more, and then no disrespect to Sage, but like you had somebody like Sage who was making 1550 or 1660 or something crazy, and he was fighting nobodies, and he was he wasn't putting on quite the performances and everything else, and I just felt like that got a bit frustrating, and just obviously, you're not working on your own time schedule. You don't know when you're going to fight. You're set to the shows that suit them. And I don't know, somewhere along there, I think I was starting to get a bit frustrated and maybe being away from everyone too, obviously before I was always around my family when I was training and everything else. So maybe I was kind of away from what, give me the motivation in the first place. So maybe somewhere along all that, I think the love of it kind of start to go out of it a bit,
Yeah, obviously your final fight in the UFC was the loss to Joel Alvarez, and then subsequently you retired. What finally brought you to the decision? Was it that frustration, or what contributed to your retirement?
The frustration was the main thing, definitely. Just even leaving the cage, I was that frustrated with myself. Camp had gone great. I felt brilliant, everything went well. The weight cut went great. Everything, I couldn't complain about a thing, to be honest. But when I was in there, then everything was slow. Just my reaction. It was throwing leg kicks. I would see them coming, but it was I was trying to step my foot back, and it was it wasn't come back. Then it would hit my leg. I was it was just driving me mental. And I was that frustrated coming out of there. Even the guillotine defense, I've been training at all camp, whether it was standing on the floor or whatever. I had all the answers, and then as soon as the guillotine went on, I just done nothing, and I was just that frustrated with it all, to be honest. And I felt like if I'm not going to fight to the ability I know I can do, then what's the point? Obviously I can make nice money, but it wasn't worth the heartache for me. I felt like it was going against everything I kind of done it for. I done it for the passion of it and love of it, and I set out to be world champion. And then when I no longer believed that, and the frustrations from it as well, that was it. I thought I'd rather be out of it than drag it on and kind of tarnish everything I worked hard towards.
Was it difficult to accept in a way? You're talking there about wanting to be a world champion, and then it sounds like you're kind of coming to the realization that may not be an option for you. Was that a difficult kind of thing to accept?
It's definitely a difficult thing to accept. That was probably the hardest. But even now, even to this day, when I think about my career, I feel like the last bit is almost soured it for me, because I knew what I was capable of, and then again, when I was going and putting on them poor performances, it still eats at me that I was so poor, that it still doesn't sit well with me.
Yeah, I think in your defense, with your last fight against Joel Alvarez, he was a very, very good fighter and has proven that since your fight as well. His only losses inside the UFC so far from Damir Ismagulov and Arman Saryukian. So, looking back at that fight now, obviously a disappointing loss at the time, and Joel Alvarez was good fighter at the time. Obviously, looking back, do you think were you a little bit too harsh on yourself with that performance, considering the type of fighter that he is?
Not really, to be honest. I think, like I knew going into the fight he was a good fighter. Like I seen his striking was good, and even when I watched the fight back, like he's got nice striking, and but it's more. I think it was more internal for me. Like what I was frustrated at. Like I was like if I went in and I fought the best of my performance, like the best I can do, and then then I lost the fight, then I wouldn't have retired. It wouldn't have been something that I would have been frustrated. Just like kind of like the Ivan Masardo fight when I was fighting for the title. Like that night at the time, that was kind of like I fought to the best of my ability. I made a mistake. I got caught in the guillotine. I had a broken hand, and that was it. Like I knew I was winning the fight. I knew I was better than him overall. Really, I lost the fight.
You'd won like the first 4 rounds, I think, fairly handily in that.
And I could accept that. When you fight to the best of your ability, and you don't get the win, then you've done everything you can. And sometimes the person's just better on the night. But when I'm not fighting to the best of my ability, then I think that's what kind of led to the decision, because it was too frustrating for me,
Do you ever think about coming back, Joe? Do you ever miss it?
Not really. I wish I did. There's bits to it I miss. I loved the buzz of training for a fight. I loved even cutting weight. It sounds stupid, but fight week, it was almost frustrating for me just waiting to start cutting weight. Like I enjoyed the taking the bath and the whole process. Being in the hotel for the week, being around familiar faces. Obviously, it was an excuse for my family and friends to get together. I missed all that. I missed the excitement of the fight itself. I missed that goal, having that goal, such a big goal that you're working towards. But to be honest, I kind of found my own new little goals, that I haven't quite started on. But as long as I got a goal, I feel like I got my reason to wake up in the morning, So I'm kind of starting a new chapter in my life,
Yeah, definitely. You said in previous interviews, Joe, that you've done that you didn't ever want to have any regrets. You said that through your career a few times. Do you have any regrets coming in after retirement?
It's a good question. Do you know what? There probably is some regrets in there somewhere. If maybe if I had a bit more time to think about it, it'd be something that would be clearer. Definitely, I wish I was working with John Tandy the whole way along. That was something that I found on my last fight I went back to, because a lot of my basics and my striking at the end was from him, and I felt like I moved away from the basics. And I loved working with the Thai coach as well, Chris Cardley. Used to throw a lot of just ideas my way, I would go sparring, I'd come home and I would throw ideas off him, and I'd go, I'm struggling with this, and he would go, did you try this? Did you try? I wish I took time to go back more, because I think obviously the training was so good at TriStar that I stayed there the whole time, but I wish I took time to go back. One, to kind of top up my motivation, spend time with the family, and two, I had great coaches back in London too, that I wish I kept working with, and that way I felt like that way then I would have kept some of my basics, some parts that was me, that was very very much intuitive to me, and bits that I kind of came up with through their coaching, the kind of style they coached me to, a style where it was very open. It was very open, and I kind of found my own way. And I wish I kind of kept bits of that. I think where I lost a little bit of confidence in my striking towards the end, I think that would have kept the topped up. And obviously with the wrestling and the grappling I learned in TriStar, all mixed together, I think it would have been a perfect blend, you know.
Yeah, like you said that you struggled to get away from TriStar, but in my opinion, that's completely understandable. You're in a gym at the time with George St. Pierre and Rory McDonald and some serious talent over there, and I'm sure you got some serious work. And like, what was it kind of like being in that environment, and how much did it help you progress as a fighter? It's just seeing maybe GSPs, like we would have seen him out and fighting and interviews. You would have got maybe a little bit up close and personal with him and Faraz as well in the gym, and kind of seeing what he's capable of.
Yeah, sure Joe was teaching him everything he knew.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Oh, Jesus, I don't think I was teaching George a whole pile. To be honest, it was incredible. That's why I made the move, you know, straight away. Like the coaching was incredible. The fighters there was incredible. Like the sparring partners, it was unbelievable. You know, you're surrounded by talent. Any questions you had, you always had somebody who had a great skill set there that you could ask the question to. You know, like a lot of my training partners, Mandel. You see him fight on Bellator now. Just had a good win last week. Yeah, you know, like
Rat Garbage. What a great name that is. Yeah.
Like he was so helpful to me, you know, because any question I had, he had such a great mindset, you know, like he always had a great answer. Eamon, Louis, you know, there's so many of the core guys there that like they had answers for you, you know, so you're surrounded. And Faraz couldn't have been better, you know. Faraz, he was in it with you, you know, like he was there for you, win, lose or draw, he was there for you, whatever, you know, like he really cares about his fighters. So, you know, that was the reason I made the move there. You know, I was so impressed and everything else. But I think when you're so impressed by everything else, you forget actually the bits that got you there too. You know, and the coaches that got you there and everything else. And you know, like I think the blend together would have been a perfect mix. You know.
Joe, obviously, you know, for better or worse, your career was always tied with Conor McGregor, and because of his superstardom, and you know, he's quite a loud voice. I'm not sure if people have noticed. A lot of your career was also framed, you know, kind of through the lens of Conor McGregor, and you know, he had some kind of, you know, unsavory things to say, and there was the, you know, the Welsh Joe, the Canadian Joe, this type of criticism going on of you, which was majority unfairly. How do you reflect back on that, and like, do you feel that you were received as well as you should have been by the Irish over the course of your career?
I think it was frustrating in a way because, like, obviously being tied to somebody else, I didn't care about that. You know, like it wasn't something I wanted to be tied to. Like I was just concentrating on trying to achieve what was in front of me. You know, like and from his perspective, I can understand it too, you know, like that's a narrative everyone kind of built it on, like, the last person to be Conor McGregor. So, like, I understood that narrative and everything else. You know, obviously it made sense to build it up that way, kind of like now with Pereira and Adesanya and so on. But at the same time, it was frustrating for me because I'm always just thinking about bettering myself and do my own thing, you know. So like when you're trying to do your own thing, and then like it's always in the background and everything else, and then obviously like Conor tried to kind of turn the fans against me then, because I think he probably didn't like the attention and obviously the tie between us that I was getting at the time, you know. So he tried to turn the fans against me. So that was frustrating too, because obviously that's something I've always been proud of, you know. Even though I grew up in Wales, I was always a proud Irishman, you know. So that was annoying, because obviously that's one of the reasons you're fighting, because you're you know, you're proud of your country, and
I mean, you've got Donegal tattooed on your back even.
Well, sure, it was on my back when I was choking them out, like. So you know, that was before anything else, you know. That was ages ago, like. You know, that's just the way it is. But sure, whatever. To be honest, like we had a few words backstage and so on, but You know, he's not.
Yeah,
He's not
did you ever run into each other like at events? Because like it was for years. Like you were both in the UFC for 5 years together, and obviously you beat him back in the day. So like you must have run into each other at events, or there's a lot said online. So like, is it the same in person?
It was just in the Go Big thing was the only time we kind of ran into each other. Like backstage, he was yapping and cribbing and crying, talking shite, to be honest. But he was just a dose, like. So to be honest, it didn't matter to me. Like I didn't care what he had to say. Like sure, like I offered the fight 2 or 3 times when he had pullouts and he didn't want it then. So like if it was me and I lost to somebody, then I'd be looking to get that win back. Same as soon as the Masato fight when I lost that, like I was looking for it back. But he was calling the shots and he had the opportunity to get it back, and he never came looking for it. And to be honest, back then,
why do you think he didn't accept it?
I would have done him. Like I was still in full swing at that time. Like I was sure he would struggle with a decent striker. Because he was always a bit of a quitter. Like and I think that kind of came out in a lot of the fights. Like,
you think that's why he didn't take the fight? Was it the second time?
I don't know. Maybe he didn't want to draw more attention to me at the time. Maybe he felt he had more to lose. Whatever it was, to be honest, like small odds to me. Like at the end of the day, it's different when you're chasing a loss, and you want to get that win back from somebody you lost to. But when you already beat somebody, then it didn't matter fuck to me. Like
yeah. He obviously, Conor obviously rose to the heights that he did, and look, his achievements are unquestionable in the UFC. But the last few years, it's kind of been a lot more kind of out of the cage headlines and things like that than inside the cage. Unfortunately, where do you see him now, or what do you make of him now? I guess
it's hard to say, to be honest. Like obviously, without the octagon time, you can't really put a good what's the word? You can't really analyze it too well, because like it's the start of the fight with Poirier, he looked all right. He looked light in his feet, normal thing. But soon as like the first fight with Poirier, soon as Poirier took the left hand, then he just looked like he kind of looked like he quit again. The second fight I thought he looked a bit better, but Poirier took him down handily enough. So it's like it kind of looked like it was going to go the same way me and Dustin went. Like obviously over 5 rounds, maybe could have been a different outcome. But being honest, like the kind of generally the rounds were on Conor worse than they were on Dustin. But at the same time, I always enjoyed watching his fights. Like I enjoy his style, and I enjoy, I really believe he's a very good fighter. For all that was said and done or whatever. To be honest, I supported him up until all the shit talk. When he started with the whole Welsh show and Irish show, and because obviously you want to see an Irishman do well. But once he started all that crack, then to be honest, I didn't have much time for him,
Yeah, that's understandable. You mentioned Dustin Poirier there as a man that you shared the octagon with. You're also set to face off against him in Dublin, but unfortunately had to pull out at the last minute with the concussion. Would that have been a big dream of yours to maybe compete at a big event in the UFC in Dublin? And it must have been a bitter pill to swallow, the fact that you didn't get to do that.
I think that's probably the perfect one when you're talking about regrets there now. The fact I missed out on that one, so how it all happened when I got the concussion the week before. There was last bar on the Saturday, caught a kick, and me and Faraz were talking after, and Faraz said, you should let Joe Silva know, just in case they want to have a backup or a standby, because obviously the card had already fallen to shite, so that was the thought process with that, was we just want to make sure, it just happened, wasn't sure how it was going to be the next day or whatever, but I had every intentions of fighting, I just finished a 10-week camp, so my heart was in it. Like a main event in Ireland against a ranked fighter, like that was as big as it got for me, so that was heartbreaking, to be honest. Like, just hearing the crowd that night when Aisling Daly walked out to Zombie, like, I don't think I was telling the boys here, one of my friends on the roof, and like, that's one of the most incredible things I've ever seen or heard, just the hairs were standing on my neck. Like, I think that's probably the biggest regret in my whole career, missing out on that one. And one of the other regrets is I would have loved to fight in Japan. Like, I grew up on Pride, watching Pride, obviously the fans in Pride, and I came from Japanese Jiu-Jitsu, so it was something that was very important to me, like to fight there. So they're probably two of my biggest regrets, but the Irish thing was the main one for sure. Like, not headlining that in the three.
Yeah. Ian Garry fought last night. Do you keep an eye on Irish MMA now, or MMA in general, or are you just completely taken a step away from it altogether? What would be your thoughts on the state of Irish MMA? I know you were saying before we went on the interview, there's a new wave coming of Irish MMA now, so it give me the illusion that you are kind of keeping one eye on it at least.
A little bit, not like to be honest, MMA, I don't watch much of it, it's only when my friends are fighting really that I'll watch it. But obviously I keep an eye on the fight cards and who's fighting and the results, and like, I knew Ian Garry was fighting this night. I knew he had a good performance too, from what I read. And Rhys McKee obviously fighting last weekend on Cage Warriors 2. Like, Rhys was out here training, like one of the nicest people you could meet, so humble and hard working, and a great talent who didn't get a fair shake, so please God, now he'll get another opportunity, to get in there and get his feet wet and can, show what he's capable of, because I'm sure that's a frustration for him too, especially somebody so exciting as well,
Yeah, hopefully he's not thrown into Brock Lesnar this time or someone, because he's not previous matchmaking.
Francis Ngannou first contract for...
Yeah, another guy that a young guy that you trained with a lot, is Arnold Allen. He's putting on a phenomenal run in the UFC at the moment. Give us some insight into just how good you think he is.
Arnie's amazing. Like, again, another one, so humble, works so hard. Like there's no limit to how hard the lengths he's gonna go to. Another fella, I think he moved to Canada when he was 21. Out with us. And now he's back home. Like, he's traveling from where's he, Ipswich or that direction, and he all the way up to Breeze and Renegade MMA up in Birmingham, and obviously two big friends of mine. So I'm happy to see them link up too. But the sky's the limit for Arnie. People don't realize, because he wasn't getting like the stoppages, but how heavy he hits for a 45er is just incredible. Like, his hands are heavy. When he hits you, it stays with you, like, but also he's got the wrestling to back it up, he's got the jiu-jitsu to back it up, and striking, and to be honest, he's a character, he's good fun, he's a bit of everything, he's good fun, he's humble, I think he's to everybody's taste, but I honestly believe he gives Volkanovski the hardest test in that division. I think he's somebody that's the most well-rounded that could test Volkanovski.
Joe, we've talked a little bit about your regrets, but I'm sure there are plenty of memories that are fantastic throughout your career. Look, you came up against Mercado, unsuccessful in the Cage Warriors title attempt, but then you went away, undefeated boxing career, came back, and I remember the knee against I can't remember how to say his name now, Busuj. Your first two fights in the UFC, back-to-back first round finishes. When you're up on the roof chatting to the lads, I know you were saying there, talking about Aisling Daly's walkout, are there specific memories from your career that you will kind of keep going back to, that are fond ones?
Without a doubt. Well, you named a few of them. My debut was a special one for me. Everything just couldn't have gone better. Even just like the last meal, like all of us together, we had after we're at the airport or on the way to the airport at Cheesecake Factory.
Is this before or after the fight?
After the fight. Yeah, I don't think it would have gone away.
The size of those portions.
Right, and the way I like desserts. Basouge was a special one too, because I knew if I won that I was getting signed. The first one back, even, it wasn't a good performance, the first one back from boxing, because I remember the crowd in the Helix was just unbelievable. Like the noise in that place is... I fought in like bigger arena. Madison Square Garden didn't sound as loud as the Helix did, you know. Obviously the fight in Madison Square Garden was a nice thing. Sad not to get the result. Yeah, to be honest, like there's so many good memories, you know. Even some of the ones I lost, like even the Dustin one. The Dustin was a hard one to swallow, but we had a good fight, and you get a buzz off that, you know, like a good war. And I don't know, there was something nice about it after. Like I was out with my brother and Eamon and Faraz, and we just said, I don't know, we had a nice night all together, you know, where something you bond over, you know, like where you have them hard times, and you know they were there for you, you know, they were there for you in your hardest moments, but you know we still managed to have a nice night, you know. There's so many good memories, just memories of a time with family, you know, traveling here, there, and ever, and friends, you know, friends coming all the way to New York and everything else. To be honest, if any, like, you know, how can I crib or cry about any of it? You know, I'm lucky enough to have the opportunity to go for my dream, and you know, even though I fell a wee bit short, the support I got along the way as well, you know, I couldn't have been more grateful. Like.
Which was your favourite performance or favourite fight?
I felt there's two fights in particular, the Basouge and the Mitch Clark. Even though the Mitch Clark one was short, just after the Poirier fight, I had a chip on my shoulder. I was training 3 times every day from, let me see, I went to my coach's house for 2 weeks after the fight. Just to rest up, and then after that I trained 3 times every day all the way up until the fight, and I never felt as fit in all my life. Like it didn't matter who I was fighting that night. That one was a special, you know, just to get that win again, and that feeling. And the Basouge fight as well. I remember the crowd I had there, and knowing I was going to get signed, and then after we had a night in the casino, and I don't know, there was just something really special about it too, you know.
Wait, did you win much in the casino, or how did that night go?
I didn't gamble at all. I was just around chatting everyone, you know, we're all there. I didn't gamble at all, but I'm better off anyway, because I'm not good. The
house always wins.
The house always wins is right, especially me and my brother after, was it the Poirier fight? I think it was. One of the fights anyway. We were in Vegas the one time, and we won a fortune, and we were sat there, we're drinking all night, and obviously you don't buy no drinks when you're gambling, so we got the idea now at the end of the night, 4 a.m, with, right, we'll go on the tables now and we'll sit here and we'll have a few drinks. And it wasn't 10 minutes and we were $200 down each. We thought maybe it's more sense just to go to the bar and buy it.
Joe, I just have one more. Ian may have a couple more questions after, but I just have one more. You know, we're an Irish MMA podcast, and we talk to everyone from the likes of yourself who've had, you know, extraordinary careers in the UFC and have now called it a day to you know, debuting amateurs, just cutting their teeth. If you were to give advice to, say, a young Irish fighter just starting off right now, what would it be?
I think the main ingredient for everything is hard work. You know, like if you got that belief and you're determined, you want to make it, I think everything else will fall into place, because you'll do everything in your power to make it work. So, but if you're working harder, like you see, it's the same thing on every documentary you see about some of the all-time greats. Like if you work harder than everyone else, you're gonna get that head start on everyone else, you know. And that's the main one for me. I think, like, you just immerse yourself, whether it's studying, whether it's watching videos, whether it's in the gym as often as you can. You know, all of them ingredients, I think, is what gets you there, you know. And obviously once once you get there, you gotta up a level again. Then you gotta go that much further, because everybody's working hard. Everybody's got that same determination, and it's that stuff that gives you that the confidence. So you gotta outwork everybody, and in that hard work, I think that's what gives you the confidence. When you go into the fight, knowing that you left no stone unturned. So that's probably the best advice I could give anyone.
Yeah, thanks so much, Joe. Just one last question. You came up on the scene from the very early stages of the regional scene in the UK and Ireland. Is there any mad stories or anything that mad happened back in the day? I know it was a crazy scene back in the day. They're calling it the Wild West days and everything like that. Has anything crazy ever happened to you, or did you see anything crazy back from those days?
There was a few things, to be honest. There'll probably a few more coming to my head later, but there was one. The main one that sticks in my head, I think I posted about it on Instagram before, where two of the boys was fighting, or three of the boys, sorry, from my club in Falcons in Wales, and I was up cornering them, and it was just after the fight with Masardo, so my hand was still broke at the time. I had the first operation, but it wasn't successful. But a full-blown rammy kicked off out in the arena. There was a load of football hooligans or something. So next thing, we're warming up on a squash court, but all of it spilled back out to the backstage. So the fellow who caused the rammy, then he came and hid in the fucking squash court with us. So then
Jesus,
all the ones that was after him, know the benches you have in school, like the big long benches. Yeah. They were running at the squash court door, trying to ram the door open with the benches, trying to get the door open, get into him. Then they were throwing the benches over the top of it, and the bins came over, and they were all trying to get in, and we're just all locked in the squash court, thinking, "Oh, here we go now. This is gonna just go off completely." That was one mental one.
It's probably a good thing the hooligans didn't get in, because they were faced with trained fighters.
They didn't. I don't think they cared, to be honest. It was mental. I remember there was one fight too. It was the first time I fought Daniel Thomas, Denzel they called him. He blew up on the scene. He was from Wales too. He was just as tough as old boots he was. And I remember after I was fighting him in Caoilte, and I just beat him. And I came out of the cage, and then his brother was going to start fighting with me, or a friend or something. I don't really remember it clearly, to be honest. It was one of my training partners that told me after, because I was still buzzing off adrenaline. So I had the hand up. I was ready to start swinging, and I didn't even know at all, that was another one. But there's probably plenty more. There's sure, it was just some of the things you would see and do, was a total. It was just mental,
Yeah. You'll have to have a think about it, and we can get you back on, and you can regale with some more.
We just have old stories, old MMA stories.
Yeah, story time with Joe.
There's another one when I was boxing. I think it was my third fight. I was meant to be the first fight on, and so I'm warming up anyway, and my music's playing. I'm about to walk out, and then the fella, the runner, he goes, "Oh, your opponent's not there." Like, what do you mean he's not there? Like, he's like, "Oh, he's not here. He's in Nando's." I'm like, "Oh, Jesus."
Cheeky Nando's instead of a fight.
Nando's, so just on a full warm up. Then they say, "Right, you're going to be the third or fifth fight on." So I warm up again, and I used to like a big warm up, because I like to break into my second win before I got out. So then I warm up again. They come again. No, he's not here. So I don't know. I ended up being the 10th fight on, fighting this guy, and I was near knackered by the time I got out. Because I warmed up 3 times. I hadn't ate for maybe 3 hours. And this fella was a good fighter. He fought Eubank Jr. in the golden or silver gloves or whatever it was, and I think he lost to Eubank Jr. or beat him in the final. So he was a good fighter, but that was it. I just about got through the fight and got the win, but I tell you, I was struggling in there. I had nothing left in me, to be honest. But
crazy.
And my second pro boxing fight, it was weird with pro boxing, because you got the one person who's the home fighter, and then they're the person who sells tickets. You sell tickets, and then anything you don't sell comes out of your purse. So you gotta sell a certain amount of tickets to make your full purse. So in a way, I was the home fighter, and this fella I was fighting, and he came in. I think it was it 2 stone heavy he came in or something. It was, but
Fuck off. 2 stone.
2 stone. But that happened. I think that happened twice. Like this, the last fight I had, the guy came in. I think he came in 1.5 stone. But he was thicker set, you know. The first person, he just wasn't training. Like, he was out of shape. But he came in like 2 stone, and there was no, like, he didn't care because he didn't sell no tickets or nothing. So, like, it was all down to me. You're gonna take the fight because obviously all your friends and everybody's there. Like, and the last one, like, he was 1.5 stone, and he was like solid, you know. He was in from Hungary or some. I was.
Jesus, it sounds like the boxing scene was more of a cowboy scene than the MMA scene.
Was definitely more of a cowboy. On the same show, the fella turned up 2 stone heavier. The first fight, the guy was making his boxing debut, and he didn't have a corner at all. His corner wasn't there, and he was the home fighter. He didn't even have a corner. He didn't have no hand wraps. He didn't have nothing. Oh Jesus, he was only a young lad as well. Like, I couldn't believe it. I was just shaking my head. I thought, imagine that's your pro debut in boxing. Like, and you ain't got a trainer, nobody to coach you, nobody to warm you up, and nobody to even wrap your hands. Like,
insane. Well, Joe, we really, really appreciate you taking the time. It's been great to get to chat to you today. Really glad to hear you're doing well. The roofing is going well. The family is doing well, and more importantly, you're doing well, and you're enjoying your retirement. You know, it's always been a pleasure watching you fight. We were always cheering you on when you were getting in there, and you know, credit to you for your career, and we wish you all the best in your retirement.
Yeah, and don't be letting the daughters boss you around now too much.
Yeah.
There's little hope of that, boys. But no, thanks so much for having me on. It's nice to kind of come back and reflect on it all, and just one thing I kind of, with the retirement, I never got the time to kind of do and say is just a massive thanks to all the fans and anybody that ever sent a message or tuned in to watch and got out of bed to watch, you know, like I couldn't have felt more grateful, you know, like when I was watching Kitty Taylor the other week, and I was just like, it made me think about it all, you know, just how lucky we are, you know, to have that, you know, the people that would get out of bed or travel all the way to New York and Vegas and everything else, you know, like, you couldn't be more grateful for that support. And you know, I would like to wish everybody in the Irish MMA, you know, a bright future, and hopefully, you know, they get the same support and the messages and all the love that I felt I got. You know, I'm very grateful for it all.
100%, and I'm sure you gave, you know, the fans just as much as you received from them. So thank you for everything for over the years, for your career, and hopefully we'll get you on again if you're up for it, and we'll chat again soon.
I no bother at all. Thanks, lads. Thanks for having me on.
And we're back. That was a fantastic interview. I hope everybody enjoyed it as much as we did. It's great to hear from Joe. Great to hear that he's doing well. And yeah, an absolute
Some
legend.
great one-liners from Joe.
A couple of great one-liners. We'll be clipping a few of those. All right, a couple of tasty comments. All right, no love lost between himself and Connor. That's for sure. Let's
Lads, like, I haven't seen this, and you're just going on about how good.
No, you have seen it. You have seen it, Caoilte. Do you not remember when Joe goes when we were saying Connor was basically saying he's not Irish, and then Joe was like, "Well, I choked him unconscious with Donegal tattooed on my back." You were just telling us about that, Caoilte, there a second ago.
That's the line for the ages.
Oh, that's class. I can't wait to watch.
Let's talk about Lee Hammond, guys. Another win in the books at Super League MMA. Carmatello SUVF 6-0 at the time. Lee Hammond went in there. His toughest fight to date. A very tough opponent too. But he performed fantastically well. Up onwards and upwards for Lee Hammond, hitting another Berimbolo. That man was after hitting more Berimbolos than And I've had breakfasts and fights now. That's crazy. I like his skill to be able to do that in a mixed martial arts fight is just ridiculously good, isn't it, Caoilte?
Unbelievable. Andre Galvao better be keep an eye on Lee Hammond, because look, see what he's doing. He's doing that in fights. It's crazy. It's he's a wizard, is what I call him. Love watching Lee Hammond every time he fights, and he took that big illegal strike as well in the third round. That could have been, that literally could have
been, yeah. He could have easily stopped. The fight could have been stopped at that stage, and you wouldn't have said anything for if he had it. But you know what? He answered a couple of questions about himself, and he continued on, and had some dicey moments towards the end of the fight. But as you would after taking that strike, Andy, you were impressed overall by Lee's performance as well. I know we were chatting after the fact as well, and
absolutely. I mean, like it's what Lee is doing is very impressive. Like, this is since November, so 7 months now. He's already 4-0. That's very, very active for a pro, and taking on a guy in Karamatullah Sufiev who is 6-0, who looked pretty solid. One of these not Dagestani wrestler, but I think he's a combat sambo background, right? So taking on really tough competition. I missed. I remember at the time when the illegal blow was landed, I kind of hadn't a clue what was going on. I think we were all watching. There was Cage Warriors on at the same time, trying to figure out what had happened, and we're like, oh, maybe it was a clash of heads or something. And I didn't see, because it was the inside knee that he caught him with. But anyway, didn't see what had happened really. And I think Lee was he's a bit angry at me at the moment because I said he gassed in the third, because that's what I thought had happened. But yeah, like, I mean, I'm sure that must have taken the wind out of his sails significantly. So I'll have to build some bridges now with Lee.
There's some man for all out with fighters, Andy. It's like, it's like a different one every week.
Listen, there, I constantly have a fucking X on my back.
Well, look at.
But no, it is. But sorry, to round it off though, incredibly impressive. I always do this.
That's two. He's going well though. He's going well.
That's not too bad. I'm pretty well behaved today. Very, very impressive. Very, very impressive from Lee. And his jiu-jitsu was just fantastic. Like, he just looked like he was having fun a lot of the time out there. So a great win against a solid opponent, and now he's 4-0 in 7 months. What more can you ask for?
That's it. There's an old saying, an owl dog for the hard road and a pup for the pat, and Lee Hammond has taken the hard road, and that will stand to him later on in his career. So you love to see it. And I'm just expecting big, big things from Lee Hammond, and I can't wait to see his progress, and I can't wait to see him in there again. So we'll wait for that to happen. Battle Arena results. I'm going to leave Ian Garry to last in this section. We'll talk about that last. Let's go to the Battle Arena results. Caoilte, do you want to just take us through a couple of the results from this past weekend?
Look, didn't see any of it. I didn't realise they were on. I just saw the post from Team KF on Instagram. So Brendan Brannigan, Craig McGrattan, and Dominic Narcus all won in Battle Arena. Dominic Narcus, that's his third fight in 4 weeks, and he's finished them all via TKO KO. Mental. Like, I think, was it Andy was going on about him there one week in the last episode? Was it waxing lyrical about him, as he liked to say? And he, so the fact that this activity is just incredible. Fair play to him. Need to watch it. Haven't watched it yet, so I'm looking forward to having a look at that and see.
He looked very good.
Okay,
he looked very good. Yeah, I got to have a look at it there earlier on.
How did the fight go, Andy?
He was dominant throughout. He almost had was an anaconda choke for a solid period of time. It was one of those ones where, look, I don't know anything about jiu-jitsu, but I got from watching it, I feel like, if this was maybe 2-3 fights later on, he'd have finished it then and there. And he came out in the second round and just put it on his opponent and finished him fairly handily. So yeah, it was a very dominant performance, and he looked what stood out to me most for this guy's only 18 or something, and he's, look, again, we're focusing on a specific young fighter, but it's because he just looks so
when you go out there and you fight 3 fights in 4 weeks and you win them all by TKO and KO, how could you not
smiling? He looked like he was having fun. Like, he just looked very at home in the fight.
After a tough start to his professional career, Ryan Spillane got his first professional win at LFA or Legend Fight League,
Levels Fight League,
LFL, excuse me. over the last weekend, and you know, it was great to see Ryan get in there. Looked like a different fighter from what we've seen. Looked like the fighter that we've seen at Caoilte at amateur level, and you know, it hasn't worked out for him so far in his professional career until the last fight. He looked right on it. He looked up for it. He looked hungry, and he went out there and got the job done with great style.
Yeah, so like Ryan's career is obviously, it didn't get off to the greatest starts. The first fight was a very, very difficult fight. Second one, that one kind of threw it away himself, I guess. But this, he looked fired up, looked a complete different fighter. Went in there, and yeah, look, he did what he needed to do. Referee was absolutely atrocious. Referee must have wanted to see a dead body, but whatever. Ryan kept he kept going to referee, stepped in, got to finish, and look, that's his first one as a pro. He's got that momentum now, and hopefully he can keep it going and get, remain active this year and get a few more wins in, because heavyweights is, you don't need 10, 12 fights to get to the UFC if you're a heavyweight. Let's be real. It's a slim division. So if you start picking up wins and build on this momentum, I'm not talking going to UFC just yet, but if you want to go in that direction, you need to start getting those wins, and you don't need a lot of them to get into a big promotion if you're a heavyweight.
Absolutely. It must be tough for him to pick up opponents and stuff. He's a big boy, and even to fucking get training partners and everything like that. I mean, I know he's been traveling up to SPG Ireland, up to the headquarters, and getting some good rounds in with the lads up there as well. So that's good to see, and that's going to benefit him as well. If he's up there doing some work with the likes of Will Fleury and Johnny Walker and stuff like that, that's really going to translate into the fight. And it looks like we've seen that in his last performance as well. So credit to Ryan, he's back on. We go in, we talk about guys punching and kicking one another, but there's a huge part of this game that's mental as well. And you have to get that right in order for everything else to work. And, it seemed that Ryan had some problems there, and I'm sure that he would admit that himself, but he looks to have getting them figured out right now, working with sports psychologists and other things as well, from what Lee Moog has been telling me. So it's great to see Ryan back in the win column, and credit to him for doing for sorting himself out and getting the win. So fair play to the Hulk. Where are we now? Ian Garry got a great win against Gabe Green at UFC 276 this past weekend. Tremendous performance by Ian Garry. You can't say it any other way. A lot of people are getting excited about Ian Garry, and he does talk a big game, which kind of might hinder him in certain ways. But as a 24-year-old man coming up in the UFC, that was a performance that he should be very proud of, and you could see that he was very proud of and very happy with. We talked about how difficult. He didn't have any difficulties against Darian Weeks, but I think we saw the difference in an Ian Garry's fight when somebody actually comes to press the action and fight, in relation to what he faced off against with Darian Weeks, who was a little bit more defensive and back and likes to fight on the back foot. But Ian pressed the action. His boxing was on point, accuracy, his speed, his shot selection, his defensive movement away, he's circling out of trouble, got himself into a little bit of trouble up against the cage now and again, and that seems to be a trend in some of these fights where he is trying to circle away and he will get cornered into the cage. He'll know himself, he'll have to work on that, and he has been trying to get out of the way he circles around with his hands down. When you hit that cage, you are leaving yourself open, and he took a few shots, but you're fighting in the fucking UFC. You're going to take a couple of shots as well. So, Andy, give me your assessment of Ian Garry and the fight itself.
Yeah, you were giving out to me, Ian, for saying it wasn't all one-way traffic. You were coming from my neck, coming from my throat.
I wasn't going to call you out on the podcast.
Do you know what it is, though? It's one of those things where, with an Irish fighter, I find that I'm trying to almost extra critical, unbiased. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. I thought it was brilliant. I thought it was a brilliant performance, and what you were saying there about when he's up against the cage, like what I was saying the other day, it almost feels like in Ian Garry's fights, because he fights with his back. Like I don't remember Ian fighting this way earlier on in his Cage Warriors career, where he seems to almost enjoy kind of fighting on the outside and with his back against the cage and a lot of lateral movement. And it kind of gives the illusion of jeopardy when sometimes he's not really in trouble at all, and that's just the way he's the way he's playing the game. I thought it was a brilliant performance. Well, I say it wasn't all one-way traffic, but sure, no fight is. It was never in doubt. It was a comfortable win for 3 rounds, and the best win of his UFC career to date, in my opinion. Well, no, it was. I think that was the knockout aside in his debut. I think that was the best performance of his career to date in the UFC. He obviously did spectacular knockouts in Cage Warriors, which kind of they stick in your mind more. But it was a mature performance from Mean, and I think that he's probably settling down a lot more in the gym over in Sanford MMA or whatever it's called now. I think they've rebranded. But he's probably settled down there a bit more. And look, if he keeps winning and he keeps doing what he's doing, I think that he'll win people over. I think he's made a little bit of. I think he's taking a step in the right direction with this one as well. There's less. You hear less people complaining about him now. I think that he can.
All
I think
those
he can win back the
coming
Irish.
from stateside, if you ask me, and anyone who
I don't know about that.
But the majority of the shit that you see on Twitter are coming from people who have only seen him fight in the UFC. And I think if you're going to assess Ian Garry, you have to assess where he's come from his first professional fight to where he's at right now, and that's where I will assess him. And I agree with you. When you said
Twitter's a cesspool as well.
It's obviously a cesspool, yeah. And who gives a fuck about what anyone says on Twitter, to be honest? But I think what you said, 2 things there. It was that it settled in the gym, and it was his best performance. I think it really was his best performance. And you're not going to learn stuff about yourself if you go in and knock out someone in early stages of the first round. Where you learn yourself is going 15 minutes with Darian Weeks or going 15 minutes with Gabe Green. And there was a spell at the end of the second round where he was in trouble, but he got his eye poked right before that, and that bothered him a little bit. I don't know whether it blurred his vision or something like that, but he came out in round 3, and what did he do? Boom, dropped Gabe Green. That's it. That's how you put the end to any of that kind of stuff, or any kind of, because I thought, he looked to be slowing down a little bit towards the end of the second round, but when he dropped him at the start of the third, it was the perfect start. And I mean, looking into
I love to see him calling for the, it's not I don't believe it's going to happen, the UFC Dublin, but I love that he's calling for it. I love that he's kind of sending out those rallying cries to the Irish, which is what McGregor, we don't need to compare him to McGregor, but from an Irish perspective, you want to hear Irish fighters engaging with the Irish fan base, and I think Ian's trying. Yeah,
he definitely is, Caoilte. I'm interested to hear what your opinion is of the overall situation. I think he's talking about sharing a card with McGregor in Dublin. I think that's probably not going to happen. I think he probably needs another win or 2 or maybe 3, maybe more, to kind of get himself into a status to get onto that Dublin card. Ideally, to get everybody invested, you want to be trying to work him into a position where he might potentially headline a UFC card in Dublin at some stage. Would you be along those lines of thinking, Caoilte?
I would. So I think I made this prediction before, but it was on a recording that we had to scrap. So next year I made the prediction that there's going to be 5 new Irish fighters signed to the UFC. I'm sticking by it, wholeheartedly sticking by it. For me, if Ian, is it Machado Garry? Is that, so we have to use his full name now? If he is to go and win 2 or 3 more, he should be in a position where he could headline a UFC Dublin card. And I think if he can do that by, let's say, December next year, then you could easily have a really stacked UFC Dublin card. And I think it can happen. Really can. I really do. That was definitely the biggest win of his career. He looked absolutely phenomenal. And he said, and if you watch the post-fight interview that he did as well on the UFC YouTube, he came across really well. I'm really excited by this. I think he's everything around this was kind of flawless in a sense. So fair play to him.
Yeah, he's definitely moving in the right direction, and that's good to see. I'm happy to see him do that. I mean, I like when he's talking about himself, and he's fully aware that he's not the finished article yet. He's fully aware that he doesn't want to be anywhere near the top 15 yet. Like, I wouldn't even be talking about top 15 for another 2 years with Ian Garry, to be honest. I'm wondering what you think about that, Andy. Where would you like to see him go next? Would you like to kind of fight similar opponents to what we're seeing right now, and little bits of step up and gradually move up the ladder?
100%. As far as timelines go, and you know when he'd be at that ranked opponent level, I don't really know. I would like to think that it would maybe be sooner than 2 years, but it really all depends on the performances and you know who he gets next. I definitely don't want him thrown to the wolves, and I think the way I think the UFC are handling it well. Like I think if he was going to be fast tracked, we would have seen it by now. Like we're not seeing him against anyone that we know even really. So you know, obviously Gabe Green, you know a little bit. He's had a few fights in there.
Gabe Green was a worthy challenger for Ian Garry.
But I just mean out of of course, name value. Yeah.
I think it was a worthy challenge for him. Like I mean, it's hard if you're not following UFC all that much, you don't know it. But Gabe Green is a very
he brought what Darian Weeks didn't.
Move, and he's a tough as hell as well. I mean, he took some shots from Ian, and a couple of those shots might have dropped another person on another night as well. So, all in all, this is really good night for Ian Garry, and there was a lot more negatives that stemmed from his last fight. Maybe you could call it a little bit unfair, but I don't think there's too many that you can pull from this fight. I think he looked really well developing. And I'm very excited to see him getting in there again and working on his game and getting some challenges inside the UFC. And it's going to be an exciting run.
100%.
Moving on, unfortunately, some newsworthy items. I've seen Pat Lehan was on Instagram, and unfortunately, his fight that he was supposed to be fighting on Combat Global. I don't think it was reported, but I do know it was supposed to be against Martin Bravo. It wasn't fully.
What a fight that would have been.
Yeah, that would have been a hell of a fight, and that would have probably set him up for a shot at the title if he had.
Did you see that they released the rankings? I thought that he was third. Is he third as featherweight, and then it was third and eight?
He's third as lightweight and 10th as featherweight, and our guy Franz Malambo is propping up the top of the rankings in the bantamweight division, which is great to see the tricolours on the rankings there, and a smart move by Combatche too, because we want to see for us, it's hard to kind of nail down who's fighting in what division in Combatche, but now we have something set in stone. Now we know what the opposition is. Now Pa knows who he has to aim for as well, and he's come out and he wants another opponent, and he wants to fight for one, if not two titles in Combatche this year, and it could be a big year for him. Be interesting to see if he can manage to get two titles this year, but I think another win against a decent opponent in the lightweight. I think he's moving down to featherweight now, so he probably has eyes on the featherweight more. But I think
that means that he's one or two fights, or sorry, I'm trying to think what's the right way of saying this. One fight away from a title shot. So like if he's going in against Martin Bravo there, he's ranked number 2. He gets past him, and then that's a title shot, surely.
It would be, because Martin Bravo would be up there as well, and the same in the lightweight division. He's sitting at number 3 right now, and he could well get in straight away for a title shot as well in that division. But it's great to see. Obviously, we have to kind of piggyback off that, we'll have Nadine Ababissa that will be going into the strawweight division pretty soon as well, and she's set to make her
atomweight, right?
Or the atomweight, excuse me. Excuse me, sorry. She's going in there later on this year, Caoilte, is that right?
That is correct, yeah. So Nadine is set to fight on September 9th against an American opponent called Anna Summers, who is 1-1 as a pro. She's already had one fight in Combatche. She won it with Kimura in the first round against Irlanda Galindo. So yeah, look, good for.
She's
good
the
debut.
8th ranked atomweight in Combatche.
Yeah, just looking at that now too. Ada Summers is number 7 in the rankings. From what am I looking at the right one? Yeah, I am. And yeah, that title is vacant too. So Nadine gets in. She could be a couple of fights away from winning the title there too. So it's all.
I'd love to see. I feel like Nadine could go on a run where she just styles through a list. Like I know she's gone in against Anna here as number 8, but I see number 10 Jade Durant. That's a fight I called for her previously. I'd like to see that fight because I think Nadine would smash her, to be honest with you.
Well, do you know what? We were talking about it, right? We were talking about her decision to move to the professional ranks, the difficulty that she had in finding opponents. Well, here we have 10. We have a list of 10 opponents right here now as well, which is fucking brilliant for Nadine. And I can't wait to see her going in there and testing her skills against all of them. And I'd be very, very confident that she's going to be doing well. And I'd be very surprised if we didn't see a belt around her shoulder in a couple of fights' time. Obviously, she has a little bit of developing to do. I know I have a tendency to get a little bit excited when I say
she's going to be UFC champion in 2 months.
But I mean,
world champion.
I don't think you could argue too much, from what we've seen so far. And I'm very excited to see Nadine get in there and challenge for the atomweight title in combat.
This is part of the fun, right? It's like we're covering it, but it's also you're going on these journeys with these fighters. It's good crack.
Brilliant. It's brilliant to see, and fair play to Combat for kind of putting a bit of like the divisions are more relevant now. We know who's fighting, we know where everybody stands, and I think it's a good move overall.
They
just need to forget about like moaning about the TV deals. Just stick it on YouTube. That's grand.
Yeah, just stick it on YouTube for fuck's sake. Yeah. Abhinav Fares is making his debut on July 22nd too. He is making his pro debut. There was a couple of questions asked, I think, and it was a bit of a surprise, but it shouldn't have been a surprise to us, Caoilte, because we have Lee Moog, who actually gave us that news on episode 2 of the Auld Triangle. Kind of went all over our heads, didn't it?
I'm telling you now, lads. As soon as I saw it, I was thinking, I remember hearing this before, and I went back and watched the interview we did with Lee Moog, and yeah, he literally told us that he's going to turn pro. It probably shouldn't have been news to us when it came out.
He came with the receipts.
Yeah, literally. Here, look. Delight another Irish fighter in a Combache. Look, plenty of questions raised, I guess, about him turning pro, but it is his decision at the end of the day.
It is a little bit surprising though, just considering like he's on a losing streak, I think, as well. And,
yeah.
I think that's why it's a bit surprising to people rather than the news previously being out there. It's just kind of like, oh, okay, gone pro now, so it's a gamble, but maybe it'll pay off.
Maybe, like you see, like. Yes, when Palahan went pro with the losing amateur record, and people could have said all sorts there as well. He went into this tournament with a load of lads with like 10 pro fights. So you could have questions there. And here's another one going in. Look, he's losing the amateur record. Maybe he's learned all his mistakes, and he's going in there now, and he might win and thrive as a pro. I guess we'll just have to see. But as you said, look, it is a risk. But let's see how it goes.
No risk, no reward is what they say. Ger Harris has himself a couple of fights lined up. He is set to go in against Abdurrahman Nasturdinov.
Beautiful.
In who's seemingly a pretty big prospect coming out of All Stars, eh?
One of the lads who trains at All Stars texted me in 2020 about this lad when he was an amateur. So when I was doing a bit of work with MMA Viking, he told me about this lad. He was like, watch out for him. And then when he turned pro, he came back. He said it again. He's like, he's a savage. They rate him really, really highly over in All Stars. He comes from the Wushu background. He's got a load of accolades there. Was told to look out for a few spinning things before, but that's when he was an amateur. So I'm not sure if it's there now. But I watched his last fight. Oh my God. I am buzzing for this fight. I can't believe it was made this early in their careers. But I am so excited for it. Really, really good matchup for both of them. Yeah,
I'm looking forward to seeing. Obviously, Ger has a fight coming up on Cage Conflict 7 at the end of this month as well against Nuruddin Hazrat. But he will join Andreas Binder on September 9th on Cage Fight Series, which will be live on UFC Fight Pass. And it's a big fight for Andreas after suffering a defeat in his last fight, Andy. He's be looking to bounce back here on September on Cage Fight Series, and he's coming in against Leo Unuk.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, look, getting back on the horse really, and it's good to see him, getting back in there. I think, if I'm not mistaken, there may have been a different opponent that was kind of planned for his next one, and I think this may be a different one now that he suffered a loss. I can't remember, to be honest, but I'm pretty sure I'd heard that. But that's a positive sign to me, because the opponent that I was aware of was very, very, very experienced, and it wouldn't make sense to go in against someone like that after coming off a loss. So I'm excited to see Andreas back. I still have high hopes for him, to see what he can do. And look, he got caught with a sub, and yeah, but just looking forward to seeing him back in there really, and we'll see what happens.
We will. We surely will. Another fight that we all didn't know we wanted to see until it was announced, and that's Johnny Jitsu. John Redmond is back against the former face of Bama, the former face of Bellator, and now currently the future face of Cage Legacy. Declan Kennedy, you can have that one for free. They're fighting at Cage Legacy 17.
This is the most Declan Kenna move in the world. It wasn't like the best middleweights in Ireland or something like that. So I'm like, who's active, who's winning? You know, like I did not see this one coming. No, that's no shade on either fighter. I just was not expecting this, and I fucking love it. This is going to be great crack.
It's going to be brilliant. I can't even wait for the build up, and we'll have to have the lads on ahead of the fight as well. But there's going to be. Did you see
Johnny Jitsu was promoting it with Al Four in there? He looked like he ran into him in the shopping centre or something.
That's crazy. Brilliant. But that's a great fight that we have looking forward to, and we're going to finish it off here. No Q&A this week, but we are going to finish off and talk a little bit about Shauna Bannon. I had her on for an interview yesterday. It's up on SevereMMA YouTube channel, and she has a couple of decisions to make. So right now, as it stands, she has 4 offers. One from Combatche Global, one from Invicta, and then over in Europe, one from KSW and another from Aries. So not a bad predicament to be in for Shauna Bannon. And I'll just ask you, Andy, where would you like to see her go next? If you were to make that call, where would you like to see Shauna compete?
Say them again. So Combatche, KSW, Aries,
and Invicta.
Interesting. Right, well, while I stall for time, I'll say what I want her to do when she makes the decision is do it like one of the college players in the States, where they get the hat and then they put it on and they have them all on the table. That's what I don't make a video. I want her to do that. Who was
the person who made the fucking documentary about the decision? And
decision, LeBron. Yeah, that was when LeBron went to the Heat.
He just ended up staying where he was.
He left the Cavs and went to the Heat. So I think I want to see her in KSW. Just the shows that they put on are incredible. I think she'll have probably some tough competition there. I think she could really shine there. And I think ultimately the path is to the UFC. So whichever of these promotions she signs with now, I think it's, not short term, but it's not forever. Why not have some fun in KSW, these fucking crazy stadium shows, and then move on to the UFC from there?
That's it. I mean, Aries have a deal on UFC Fight Pass as well. And they have relations with the UFC, as do KSW. But I mean, yeah, it'll be interesting to see. What would you like to see her doing next, Caoilte? I mean, she's in a good predicament right now, and lots of good places that are looking at her. And I don't know she asked me. I don't know. I'm not too sure. Yeah, I mean, it's a tough decision to make. I'd hate to be in her shoes right now.
Yeah, you hate to be in the shoes, but at the same time, it's like, what a situation to be in. Imagine having that many offers. Like, you're spoiled for choice. I think it would come down to a lot of different factors. So I think big factor is going to be money. Like, unless you don't be getting paid bloody pennies either. Like, so yeah, you gotta look after numero uno. So, you gotta look after yourself, you gotta look after your family. So that's probably a big factor, but then also a career trajectory as well. And if they're going to promote you, and if they're, how much they're going to put behind you, and what's the track towards UFC. So if we're looking at, I'm buying time here. If we're looking at which one exactly, God, I'd love to see KSW, I must admit. But yeah, no, KSW would be the top one for me. I just love KSW. I think their class and the shows are just insane. Get to go to Poland and watch some fights as well, so that'd be a laugh.
Sean Denny would be absolutely delighted if that were to happen, and I think KSW really stands out to me as well. And for Shauna, it's more like forging her path to the UFC now, and what's going to be the best route to get there, what's going to be the best promotion to get her there. You don't want a promotion to take her on and looking to build a name for someone else off her. She's going to have to be given the right tests at the right time and be handled correctly. But I think that she has a good head on her shoulders, and she'll make the right call for herself. She's very smart. She's handling all this on her own as well. I spoke to her about about that in the interview. She's making all the calls. Obviously, Paddy has a bit of a say as well, but she has a good head on her shoulders, and I'm sure she'll make the right call. And I'm excited to see. Hopefully, that decision will come soon, and we'll hear where she's going to go.
Just the one thing you said there about the worry about promotions, maybe building other people off them. KSW would actually probably worry me most in that regard, because it's these big shows in Poland and a lot of Polish fighters, so that potentially could worry me. Where are they going to bring her in and then match her up against a hometown fighter that they're really just looking to make a name off of? So but look, as you said, she's a smart girl, and I'm sure that she'll make the right decision. Yeah,
true that. And if you're good enough, you're good enough anyway. So that's about the size. So I think that wraps us up for this week. Episode 12 of the Auld Triangle. Thanks to everybody for listening along to us this week. Thanks a million to Joe Duffy, who gave us a great interview. I hope everybody enjoyed this week's episode. We'll be back again in 2 weeks' time to talk all things Irish MMA. We'll give it the full blast on Cage Conflict 7, which is coming up, and a couple of other items as well. As always, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the 5-star button or the ratings button on Spotify. Help us out, tell a friend, support the podcast. We'll catch you the next time. Peace out from myself, Andy Stevenson, and Caoilte the Barra. We'll talk to you again the next time.